Al-Arian. He is the director of the Center for Islam and Global Affairs here at Istanbul Zaim University, and he joins me now live here in the studios. Great to have you here with us. So, Ismail Haniyeh's predecessors were also assassinated by Israel, and now he has been assassinated as well. Is he the last one to be assassinated, or are we going to see more?
Oh, certainly Israel has had a policy of assassinations even before its founding. I mean, Israel has assassinated Palestinian leaders all along. In Fatah, most of the senior leaders were assassinated, a lot of them even in Europe. During the first Intifada, Khalil Wazir, who was the military commander of Fatah, was assassinated in Tunisia. Others were assassinated in different capitals around the Arab world. And Hamas itself, the first and the second leaders were assassinated in 2004, Rantisi, and before that, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. For Islamic Jihad, Fathi Shiqaqi, the first general secretary, was assassinated in Malta in 1995. Aruri, earlier, last January, I believe, he was also assassinated in Beirut. So Israel has this policy which makes it really an outlaw. It's a rogue state that has been unrestrained in its policies of killing people, lashing out at them left and right.
And the fact that Israel is able to perpetrate these assassinations again and again, goes to show that someone, some entity, some country is emboldening these actions.
No doubt. I mean, the United States has been emboldening Israel, enabling Israel, protecting Israel, supplying Israel with all its arms, even intelligence that it needs to carry out these assassinations. So there is no doubt that the United States has been complicit not only in the genocide in Gaza, but also throughout these assassination attempts, or even more than attempts. These are actual assassinations taking place. As you pointed out, in 1992, Musawi also, Abbas Musawi, the first Secretary General of Hezbollah, was assassinated, and he was replaced by Hassan Nasrallah, who far exceeded in his defiance of Israel what Musawi could have done.
Right. I just want to sum up the international reaction that we have seen come so far from regional countries. Of course, Turkey has reacted. The Turkish president has reacted, and he has condemned the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh. And the statements that we have seen come from regional countries, including Turkey. I get the sense from all these statements that the stakes of an all-out war in the Middle East are higher than ever before. Do you feel the same?
There is no doubt that what happened in the past couple of days will escalate and make this a distinct possibility. Whether it happens or not depends on the response that we're going to see. Two of the capitals of the so-called axis of resistance have been hit hard. Yesterday in Lebanon and today in Tehran. That means that the resistance, or the axis of resistance, particularly Hezbollah and Iran, would have to respond. And if they respond in a forceful way, which is expected, then Israel will also raise the stakes and might respond back. Whatever that response might be would tell us a lot about what the other players in the region would do. And I think right now the United States is also at crossroads. Kamala Harris cannot be elected as president with this tension high in the region, and the United States cannot abandon Israel.
So are you saying that all of this happened without the blessing of the U.S.?
Well, the United States right now, in terms of the Biden administration, does not have an interest in escalation. Harris cannot be elected. The Democratic Party cannot regain power in the White House with this outrageous war going on. At least temporarily, they need to shut it down. And that's what they were trying to do. And Netanyahu has been defying them, and he is more interested in getting Trump back into the White House because he would be more amenable to what he wants to do. So there is a tactical difference here. It doesn't mean that the United States will not back Israel if Israel carries the day. And that's what's been happening. The will of Israel has been carrying the day throughout this. And because we have a weak and ineffective administration, they had to tag along. But it doesn't mean that they are totally in agreement with Israel.
And Sami, I think the timing of these incidents is very concerning, isn't it? It happened, not just the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, but also the assassination of a senior Hezbollah commander. All of this happened a few days after Netanyahu returned from Washington. I mean, does it raise concerns?
Absolutely, there is a connection here. I mean, Netanyahu was trying to convince the American political elites that he's not going to shut down this war and that he's going to escalate. I don't think the Biden administration, again, particularly Harris, is interested in escalation because that will dim her chances of getting elected. So they were trying to convince them to at least temporarily shut this down in terms of a hostage deal until the elections is over. And I think, on the other hand, the Republicans do not want that to be shut down, because the more you have this upheaval and turmoil, the more Trump will have a chance of becoming be re-elected.
A bit off topic, but I have to ask you this question. You know, we have been talking about this subject quite a lot recently, especially with the U.S. heading to the elections. Who is better for the Middle East? Is it the Republicans? Is it the Democrats? Because, of course, when we look at the events unfolding now, all of this is happening under the leadership of the Democrats. Do you perhaps think that if the Republicans come into power, it would be better for the Middle East?
No. I mean, we have to understand that both parties have been heavily influenced and under the tutelage of the influential Israeli lobby. So in terms of the actual policies, support, protection, supply of arms and policies, both are the same. You know, all the vetoes that have been cast on behalf of Israel came from both parties. But in terms of the long-term strategic situation, I think there are subtle differences between the two. If Trump comes to power, I think he will unravel faster the American empire in terms of the long-term and the short-term impact of that empire in the region. But in terms of the domestic policies vis-a-vis the Arabs and Muslims, certainly Trump would be a disaster for them. So you would have to look at different impacts of these two parties. But when it comes to the Palestinian situation, certainly Trump has done more damage than any other administration. But then when we see the genocide that Biden has allowed, then you can't argue that.
Because Trump's argument is that it did not happen on his watch. No wars happened on his watch. That's what he argues. But you know, talking about the killing of Ismail Haniyeh now, I just want to bring in a few updates that I'm seeing on the wires. Iran has declared 3 days of national mourning for Ismail Haniyeh, and we have a statement from the Qatari Prime Minister. He basically says, "How can mediation succeed when one side assassinates negotiator on the other side?" Of course, the Qatari premier was referring to the assassination of Hamas's Ismail Haniyeh here. Where do you think his assassination leaves ceasefire negotiations?
I think the ceasefire negotiations have been dead for a long time. I mean, from day one, Netanyahu was not interested in any negotiated deal. And I think if we were in doubt about this, just listening to his address in Congress would tell you that he's not interested in any kind of negotiating deal. He keeps saying that he has to continue the war, he has to defeat Hamas, he has to sludge it from power, and that he has to free the hostages through military pressure and military means. There's no way to have negotiations. And then after the many negotiation deals that have been going back and forth, including ones that have been announced by the President of the United States himself, he comes back and changes the whole rules and puts new conditions. He doesn't want to withdraw from Gaza. He doesn't want to allow people to go back to the north of Gaza, things that have already been agreed upon in the past deals. So someone like that definitely is not interested in a deal.
Sami Al-Arian, thanks very much for joining me here in the studios. And now